All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Greta Brauer, Director of Product Strategy and Marketing here at GoodData. I'm really excited to welcome you to our webinar about data monetization today, featuring an interview with Stackless Data co-founder and CEO Nachi Mehta. Just a housekeeping note, everyone is muted on the webinar. You are welcome to post questions in the Q&A box. In fact, we encourage it. We will try to answer them as we go, either in the chat or live on the call. And we will be recording this session and send it out to everyone in the next day or two in a follow-up email. So we're going to spend the majority of the time on this 30-minute webinar talking with Nachi about how they are using GoodData to monetize their data with their customers and hear their story. But first, I just want to share a little bit about GoodData for those who aren't familiar, and then Nachi, I'll bring you in. Next slide, please. All right, so GoodData is an analytics platform that provides comprehensive end-to-end data and analytics solutions. And what that really means is everything from pipeline integration to data modeling to visualizations, embedding, AI capabilities, and really anything needed to build data products. We at GoodData are really focused on the analytics developer engineering user experience in our product. And so the entire platform can be managed through code or through the UI. GoodData can be deployed anywhere in a public or private cloud, any data center, any region. And we have a heavy presence in both the US and Europe with offices in San Francisco and Prague. Next slide. Thanks. I just want to mention, we've actually been around since 2007. Primarily throughout that time, we've been known for application embedding, which is linked pretty closely with monetization. But to understand where we fit in the market, we have two main groups of customers, those who want to do internal analytics and those who want to provide analytics externally. Again, connected to what we're talking about today. So whether that's through embedding analytics into an application, building custom analytics applications or data products, giving customers or partners access to the GoodData UI itself, many times that is being done in a way that is actually a revenue stream for our customers. So with that being said, let's get into monetization quick. This is my last slide of content, then we'll get to Nachi. Let me explain kind of the biggest differentiators for GoodData being a monetization platform. They, I think, fall into three categories: multi-tenancy, analytics as code, and our React SDK. What this means with multi-tenancy is that you can have multiple user groups within one environment. In our case, you can centrally manage environments or analytics content templates and easily control who gets what, automatically ensure it's sliced by the right user group or tenant, and then push out updates really easily as needed to all of those sub-tenants. Analytics as code, I kind of mentioned this already. This means the developer experience. So everything could be done pretty much through code or through the UI. Both are fine ways to approach it, but there are a lot of benefits to analytics as code, like automation, audit history, governance, the high level of scalability because of the reusability of code, and so on. And then lastly, React SDK, I think, is a great option. It's beyond just iframing or web components. It's one of the more highly flexible ways of embedding content. You can embed entire dashboards, single visualizations, or just metrics and data into, again, like basically any endpoint that you want. And it all has the same interactivity of what's possible within the GoodData interface. So it's a very powerful and flexible approach to embedding. And what that enables our customers to do is monetize their data in a number of ways because of these platform functionality or features that give flexibility. For example, you could monetize different tiers of features, like a freemium versus a standard versus a premium. You could monetize based on usage of your customer, based on usage analytics. You can monetize based on special features, like maybe enabling self-service for your customers or partners, or AI, or exporting. You could look at the amount of data, like live or historical, or you could do it by individual visualization or dashboard or some sort of like industry solution. And I believe that's what we're going to hear about today. That is what Stackless is providing. So yeah, just a little bit about GoodData. Hopefully that explains a little bit of background of what we're talking about today, but let's put that aside and get to the good stuff. I want to welcome Nachi Mehta. Thank you
Hi,
so much
everybody.
for participating. Do
Yeah,
you want to give Nachi a little bit of background, who you are and who is Stackless?
sure, of course. Yeah, thanks for having me here today. Happy to really share our journey and my experience. So I started in data probably back in 2017. Before that, I was a software engineer. We started Stackless in 2022. So we're still young, but we're growing quickly. And the idea behind Stackless is that, and I'm sure many of you have this experience, but building modern data warehouses for companies, whether you're an engineer or a product manager working with engineering teams, you've seen it. It's pretty painful. It takes a long time. You have to learn and stitch together a lot of different tools. And really,
Mhm.
you're just trying to get to some of the same insights that every company wants to get at, right? So things like how much did I sell yesterday and be able to analyze that based on some time component or other dimensions about your specific products that the company sells or services. And so, with
Mhm.
that in mind, we built a platform that enables your data to be ready for analysis very quickly. And we inject directly into customers' warehouses, and then we visualize and enable analytical functions via the GoodData platform. And this is only possible because GoodData is a code solution that we can then automate not just things like in DBT, right? The analytical business logic, but also the visualization layer. Um, and so that was really a key unlock for us that we discovered last year, and we've embedded good data into our platform since then, and we've seen a lot of good success. So um, yeah, that's kind of us and our background. Our customers are primarily e-commerce and retail, right?
Mhm.
We aren't conquering the entire world yet on all possible analyses, but that's where we're starting our journey. And so, yeah,
That's
that's the
awesome.
background on us.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really cool to hear about how you guys are using the as code functionality because I think like as someone who's quite familiar with our product and offering, like those customers of ours who really lean into the as code capabilities and kind of recognize that we're open source and so well integratable with other toolings and stuff are really the ones who get the most out of the product. And so I'm excited to learn a little bit more. Okay, so as I understand it, Stackless provides you guys build, you have now this platform for monetization. We want to hear a little bit more about the details of that. And you deliver, would you call it data products to your customers? And
Yeah,
how actually do you guys define data products? I think let's start there.
yeah, that's a good question. So a data product, that term's been bandied about for the last few years now. The way we define a data product is that it's made up of five components. One is a time component to this data product, right? When
Hmm.
and how often should the data be refreshed and be available? An obvious second component is the business logic, right? Like what actually composes and creates this piece of data or data set.
Hmm.
The metrics and the way the source systems are combined together. Oftentimes that's in DBT. Um, then there's also the visualization component. How is it represented, right? Is it just a plain table or there's some graphs, some charts, but how is it consumed by the end user? Um, and then the fourth component is the analysis, right? So what should I be paying attention to? How should I glean information out of this visualization? What's important about what I'm seeing here?
Hmm.
And the last one that I think people um, are neglecting and not really paying attention to yet is the interoperability. And that is how does this data combine or work with other data sets? And this is where Stackless really shines because we've been able to break down data into sort of first party objects, which enables us to say, okay, this is sales data and this is marketing data But there's certain functions and certain insights that can only be gleaned when you combine those together. For example, a
Mm-hmm.
full return on investment analysis on your marketing spend, as opposed to just the last touch um, market, performance metrics. So
Mm-hmm.
those five
Mm-hmm.
components for us is what comes together to make a data product. And
Okay.
good data is, I would argue, covers two of those, right? They help us with the visualization automation and also the analysis and the interpretability. Um, yeah,
That's
great
great.
question.
That's great. Yeah, and I feel like that's a hot debate because I mean, we were talking earlier, like earlier in my career, I guess, I remember data products being, something like a table's delivered or a certain pipeline and it delivers some certain set of data. But I love now that data product, or maybe at least just in my own perception, data product definition has really expanded to also include the front end where the end consumer is accessing the data in a variety of formats, not just data. It's actually usable to make a decision. And I think that's what's key and derives the most value, obviously. So that's really interesting. Okay, so we kind of got into a little bit, but maybe let's take a step back. Like, can you describe what is the monetization platform, just, almost in like a visual sense, so we can paint ourselves a picture of what is it that Stackless offers to your customers?
Sure, sure. So I think a lot of us here are familiar with e-commerce. You go to a
Mhm.
Shopify website and you see a catalog of products that you want to buy. And then you click into a product and then you can sort of customize, I want the blue version or the black version. And there's a handful of options for you there. And then you
Mhm.
can add to cart, and then you consume, and you exchange money. So our platform is very similar for our customers. What we do is we have a data catalog that we provide to them and say, look, you're in this e-commerce space, and we have some analysis to be able to detect what your data, your source data is capable of providing to you. And then we say, hey, these are the things that are probably of interest.
Mhm.
Some executive summary report or a marketing performance report. And then you can click into that, read about the product, get reviews on the product, just like you would a physical product delivered to your house. You get a data product delivered to your company. And then you can, further modify it from there. And we charge the only difference is that we charge a monthly fee, subscription based, as opposed to a one-time consumption fee, because as we all know, your data changes every single day. So there's continued value to be delivered every single day as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, interesting. So it's literally like we can envision a portal and the products are visualizations or like industry specific solutions and users or customers of Stackless can literally add them to cart, check out and just pay a monthly fee to get all of this data curated for them, has gone through the analysis and catalog, delivered right to them, and they didn't have to do any of the pipeline work or anything like that. You guys handle it all.
Correct. Yeah. It's
Pretty,
just
pretty
click of
cool.
a button, data product provisioning.
That's cool. Okay, awesome. And I'm curious, so to be able to provide this, how much work was it? Because that kind of sounds like quite a custom build. But I remember, so you and I first met at DBT Coalesce conference back in like October or November of last year, 2023. And then shortly thereafter, I remember you guys became a Good Data customer. Then I saw you again at Data Council Austin in March, this past March, 2024. And you showed me what you'd built. And I was honestly super impressed that between that short period of time, you were able to build this whole portal with embedded good data content and actually roll it out to customers all within what that's like less than 6 months. And it includes the holiday period and maybe spring break. So that's
Yeah. Wow.
actually quite impressive. So I'm just curious, like, can you describe the process that you guys went through and kind of how you got from square one to where you are?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question as well. I think step one was really understanding what it was that good data provided. And I didn't actually have the right words to even search Google to find this for us because we are sort of pioneering a new frontier, if you will, as cliche as that sounds.
Hmm.
There's not a whole lot of platforms that do what good data does, right? This concept of having a headless BI tool really hasn't been very important until recently, when now it's possible with modern technology to say, actually, I want to now automatically provision data analyses and visualizations. So
Hmm.
once we figured that out, then it took us some time to like understand the good data platform and being fully transparent. That was probably the hardest part. The documentation is a little bit lacking, but thankfully you guys did have your technical support, which is super capable and friendly and helpful. So they were
Hmm.
able to really speed us along. Um, and once we sort of got a handle, then there was definitely a steep learning curve, but once we overcame that, now we're
Hmm.
just we're flying. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
I
We
hope that answers.
appreciate the transparency and honesty. We're working on the documentation, but I'm glad in the meantime we could just get on a call and like shepherd you guys through it side by side a little bit.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the, thank you. Yeah. Okay, what about like skill sets? Did you guys, so you mentioned you're leveraging some of the analytics as code pieces.
yeah,
How
yeah. I
how
think
is that going and what skills did you need to get it going?
yeah, I think the people involved, you're definitely going to want some software engineers, obviously, people who are capable in data and really understand the difference, like the nuances of data and data provisioning,
Hmm.
the gotchas that you can have there. Um, why is it important for data to show up at a certain point in time, and what could go wrong? Because once you start to tightly couple not just the analytical processing, hey, I need to update this table, but also how does that impact the visualization? I'll give a key
Hmm.
example, right? Um, Say a customer now they take our base product and they say, oh, well, I want to enhance it by adding a new column, like a new metric that's important to us. Um, well, that column then needs to be added to the upstream models and also to the visualization. So once you have that tight coupling, well, you want to make sure that that doesn't prohibitively slow down the provisioning of that data product. And if so, how are you mitigating that? Do you increase the warehouse um, sizing? Do you change the order of some modeling? Like all of that needs to be understood. So you won't be able to understand those things unless you've been doing data analytics for some time. So definitely
Hmm.
those blend of skills is really important. So both software engineering and data engineering sort of combined is what's needed here.
I see. Okay, cool. And any other challenges that you guys came across other than the one already mentioned, like as you were getting going?
Yeah, yeah. So good data has this one the uniqueness of good data and actually the power of good data is that they have something called the logical data model. And so really
Hmm.
understanding what that is and why that's so important was a key
Hmm.
challenge for us. And for everybody on the call, just quickly to understand the idea behind the logical data model is that it is the sort of way that good data is able to semantically and logically piece together disparate data sets so that when you are combining it, it can do so in a sensible way. But
Perfect explanation.
yeah, you need to learn how to set that up though, and it does sort of have an opinion about how to do so, which is a good thing, but also requires you to understand its opinion and then work with that. So one of the
Hmm.
challenges, yeah, this reminds me, is we had done something called activity-based modeling. But the logical data model understandably sort of expects more of a Kimball style, star schema style modeling, to be able to correlate, dimensionality with metrics, et cetera. It's a lot easier conceptually to do that. Um, so we had to sort of split those things up and then really understand how to best curate our data sets to fit with the good data way of doing things. The thing is, once you do that, then it's like it truly becomes very easy drag and drop, and you have a safety net of these models, so you can't combine data together that doesn't make sense to be combined when you're trying to, I don't know, split dimensions or
Hmm.
filter certain dimensions. You can only do so if it's been sanctioned by this logical data model. So really understanding that was a key hurdle and challenge, and getting good at that is, I think, kind of the pivotal piece of being able to extract value from data modeling and data provisioning, data
Hmm.
products.
Hmm. Okay, cool. Okay, so we've learned what you're monetizing, how you guys got going, the timeline, skill sets needed, some of the challenges to get it going. So now that it's going, it's humming along, you've rolled out and you have customers who are actually purchasing this data.
Yep.
That's awesome. Why don't you, I know you mentioned the monetization model just briefly earlier, but if you could elaborate, maybe
Yeah.
that could be helpful for folks who are thinking about doing something similar.
Yeah. So I think what's really cool is that originally the idea behind data products was sort of providing sort of third-party data to companies and say, hey, if you want to enrich your first-party data with this third-party data, a concrete example is, you can give us information about your customers, so that we can then enrich that data with maybe some marketing information to say, how many of your customers went to the gym in the last, 6 months, right? So stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, I've seen some level of success with those platforms, but really, I think companies struggle with the actually easier problem of how do I get more value out of my own data?
Hmm.
And that's the problem that we're going after, is saying, hey, these are tried and true ways of understanding your own first party data better. And you really should be thinking about them as data products and not one-off sort of analyses. And this is how you do it. And so we, as a platform, inject into a customer's data system, their ecosystem, highly secure. It's really cheap for them. There's no data transfer fees, et cetera. So
Hmm.
we're monetizing for our customers their own first party data, which is, I think, a big unlock, because one, it makes them feel like, oh, I'm getting value out of my own data that I couldn't get
Yeah,
before, right? We've all heard this term of data is the new oil, and that kind of thing. But I
yeah,
think it's sort of obvious that data is important, but a lot of people don't know how to go the next step of, well, how do I actually make it important and actually get value out of it? Um,
right, exactly.
so
So
that's
sorry, continue.
I was going to say that is one mechanism. And then you hinted at
Hmm.
this earlier, Greta, where um, so we monetize on the specific insight data product, but then we
Hmm.
also are monetizing on these key upsell features like self-exploration capabilities. So I was just talking for probably a little bit too long about the LDM, why that's so important. But once
Hmm.
you have that set up, then you can expose that to a customer and say, all right, you cannot mess this up. Like, you can combine curated data sets. I think people here are familiar with Looker, and those tools from a
Yeah.
decade ago. Somewhat similar, but I would argue even better and more flexible now. So you can provision that to a non-technical user, a business user, a CFO, if you will, something like that, and they can say, "Oh, I can do this drag and drop thing," and they're smart enough now. People are smart enough. They know sort of what charts are and how to build them. You don't need to have a PhD in analytics anymore to be able to do this sort of thing. But what they
Hmm.
need is the assurance that the thing they're doing is correct and cannot be screwed up. And so that's really what we enable our customers to do. So there's like a extra fee for that. For example,
Yeah.
we charge, a non-trivial amount to allow our customers to then do self-exploration on their own data, knowing that it is curated and safe and secure to do so.
That's pretty cool. So it's not just like pre-built, dashboards or reports, visualizations, but you're also giving them new capabilities and they're willing to pay a premium for it. What do you predict like in the future? Let's say you want to roll out an AI agent of some sort or maybe some forecasting predictive tooling. Do you think that those would also be able to get you guys a premium, just like the self-services?
Yes, totally. So that is on our roadmap to build. We're definitely interested in, AI is super exciting.
Hmm.
Be able to provide those data products as well. So another concrete example here, we have a customer that we're doing a pilot with on being able to automatically provide product affinity metrics to
Oh.
specific customers that then they can tie into their marketing campaigns. So take an e-commerce company, they want to be able to send a win back campaign to a specific customers rather than doing product to product analysis, where you say,
Hmm.
okay, most people that buy this shoe, they also buy these socks. What they want and what we're working with them on a pilot is to say, well, we know customer A has already bought these socks, so let's not send them an email saying go buy these socks. We should say for this specific customer, since you've already bought these socks and you've already bought these shoes, we're going to provide you the next best product to
Hmm.
recommend for you.
That's
Um,
really cool.
yeah. Um,
Awesome.
I sort of forgot the original question though. I got on a little bit of
I
a
think
thing.
I was just asking about like other modules to upcharge. I think you answered it though.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm curious, like we've heard all about the solution, how you guys are going about it. Like what is the customer feedback been? Are
Yeah.
people pretty satisfied? Do they find it even though it's I guess my most the thing I'm most interested in, even though it's their own data, like, do
Yes.
they perceive they're getting value out of you guys really shaping it and providing something useful? I would assume the answer is yes.
Yeah, I would hope so. The the thing that comes back a lot is they say, wait a second, I don't need to have a warehouse anymore. I don't need to
Hmm.
in all these tools about how do I move data around. I don't even have to hire a data engineering team. So they go from saying, wait a second, I need to invest $1 million a year, or modestly, let's call it three or $400,000 a year, to get a data stack together. And I also need to wait
Oh yeah,
six
modestly.
yeah, I have to wait 6 months to a year for that to be stood up and modeled and ready to go. Instead, I can go to your website and ask to have provisioned some data products, and they're ready to go within, there is a onboarding process for us to just connect that LDM, like I mentioned. That's a few weeks,
Hmm.
but after that, everything is instant and it's, much less expensive than millions of
Yeah,
dollars a year. So they are
it's
just
the easy
in love with
button
it.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can imagine you're providing not just the end output, but like everything to get there and the
Yeah.
tooling all in one. So that's pretty incredible.
And
What
one
do
thing I'll add there,
you
Greta,
Mhm.
sorry to cut in there, but
Oh
the
no,
thing I
please.
think is most important is that the value is tied as closely to the consumption, the price, I should say, is tied as closely as possible to the value consumption as it can be with our platform.
Hmm.
Because what happens typically is there's that ROI process where you have to invest in a data team and train them up and get them to do these
Yeah.
things and so on. So you don't really get your value back on your data for 6 months to a year or whatever it is when you finally get that thing stood up. But for us, because it's this a la carte thing, they don't need to
Hmm.
buy, oh, I have to buy the whole data stack. I have to buy all this stuff. They just say, I just need to buy marketing analytics. And that's way cheaper to provide and provision than, the whole thing. right? You don't need to pay an entire person to model that for you. You pay,
Yeah.
you know, much, much less.
I love it. I love it. And what do you let's say there are others out there that want to take this path. I mean, obviously, maybe not identical to what you guys are doing, but maybe they're providing some analytics embedded into an application to their existing customers and just see it as an opportunity, or even, rolling out capabilities, like you said, self-service. Is there any, something you would highly recommend for them just starting out?
Yeah, I would say pick your niche, really understand the the analytics and the value of that
Hmm.
niche, and then the gotchas and the nuances of making that happen. Um, and then once you've got that figured out, um, one, if you're a really smart analytical provider and you know a lot about something, like come talk to me. We're always looking to add new data products on our platform. And this is one thing, Greta, we didn't mention, but is possible as well, is not just our own first party data applications, but third party data applications where, this
Mm,
can become a network where I don't actually really want to build a bunch of first party data. If somebody's really smart at financial data analysis, cool. Come in, build some data products on our platform, and then we can start selling those for you. But if you were to start on your own and kind of build your own version of this, then yeah, you're going
mhm.
to need to learn everything end to end about, how do you store data, how do you house data, how do you analyze that data, how do you make that efficient, cost efficient as well, not just time and performance efficient. But really pick your niche and understand that well, and then figure out how to provision that in a safe and reliable way.
That's, yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. And actually, we got a related question on the chat, so I might just read it out to you here. It's related to basically what you were talking about with different types of data. Do you get to keep and use customers' data in other products? And like, I guess basically, how does the privacy of the data work?
Yeah. So our platform injects directly into the customer's ecosystem. So we never take the data out. What we're injecting more is the logic around how to provision that data.
Hmm.
We're not taking anything out of it. So, you know, think just for example, right, if you want to calculate ROAS in a marketing context, right, the concept there is what we sell, not the actual numbers. So that would be finding your ad spend, finding your sales numbers, and then doing a division there, right? Sounds
Yeah.
trivial, but believe me, it's harder than it sounds. Um,
Yeah. No, I'm sure. And from a good data perspective, like if you're wondering about how this is made possible, it kind of goes back to the multi-tenancy concept that I mentioned earlier, where like let's say you provisioned multiple tenants in the environment, none of those customers would see other customers' data. They're siloed off in independent, like child workspace areas. And there's a number of ways to kind of architect how that works. But basically, it makes it very easy to ensure that nobody sees what they're not supposed to, which I would assume is a top concern for most people. And then there was another question in the chat here. Oh, Nachi, I see. Maybe you're answering,
yeah,
just
I'm
around
gonna type
sharing
it out
the
here. Yeah.
perfect. There was a question just sharing out the 5 data product characteristics that were mentioned really, really early on. Yeah, that was very interesting definition that everyone could benefit from. Um, so I'll let you type that in.
Boom.
Perfect. Thank you, Nachi. All right. So I want to be mindful of the time. I think we were aiming for about 30 minutes. We're well over. Thank you, Nachi, so much for sharing your story. I'm so incredibly happy to hear the success that you've had building with Good Data and that you were able to build a product so quickly, get it out there, actually monetize it, turn it into a revenue stream. And we should mention this revenue stream, this is one of your main business models, right? Like this
Correct. It is a business.
product in the market is your main source of revenue. So yeah, I think like it's a really great success story. I think a lot of our other customers, prospects, or just those out there who are looking to learn about monetization can learn a ton from you guys. So thank you again for being so willing to share.
Of
Appreciate
course.
it.
Yeah. I'm available. I think there's a slide here. You can find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to
Yeah,
shoot me a message and happy to chat.
yeah, let's pull the slide back up to wrap it up. I think there's also a few good data events and activities that I just wanted to plug while we have people on the call. So yeah, as Nachi mentioned, this is his contact information. Feel free to get in touch directly if you have any questions for him. Get in touch with me as well, greta.brauer@gooddata.com if you have questions for Good Data. And then from a looking ahead standpoint, we've got some events and activities. If you want to try Good Data out, scan this QR code. You can get a free 30-day trial, and you can take that trial as far as you want. You could take it all the way to embedding or creating custom portal. We don't limit anything in the trial, really. It's an exact replica of, for the most part, what you have in production. So if you want to trial out how quickly you could stand up something like Nachi described they're doing at Stackless, you could go for it. We also have some events coming up, a Good Data meetup, Databricks versus Snowflake, September 10th in Prague. We've got an Analytics as Code virtual webinar. We're actually interviewing the industry analyst Donald Farmer in that webinar. It's going to be really good on September 25th. And then we'll be at a few conferences, Big Data London in September and Big Data and AI Paris in October. So if anyone's attending those, please get in touch, stop by our booth. And of course, follow us on social media for all of the latest updates, events like these and more. So thank you everyone so much for attending and have a great rest of your day. And again, thank you so much, Nachi. Appreciate your
Yes.
time.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Bye. Take care.